Hi everybody, it's Webflow Joe with an Finsweet Webflow Hack. In this hack, we learn how to submit checkboxes, radio buttons, and select fields into Mailchimp. If you've worked with Mailchimp in the past, you know that you can submit these form elements natively. You cannot set up your list URL and post it to your Mailchimp with checkboxes, radios, and selects. We're going to change that today by converting these form elements into text fields and then sending those text fields into Mailchimp. Let's see how it works. We're in the live example and we see a native Webflow form on the page. This is all native. There's no embeds for these radios or checkboxes or select. This is styled in Webflow. It is native to Webflow. And we're going to send this data directly into Mailchimp as it's entered into the form. So let's see it working live in action. I'm going to go and enter my name. I'm going to enter my email. I'm going to click around just to make sure that we are capturing the actual form submission data in its live final state. So I'm going to select 6 years of experience. I'm going to be a developer and a project manager, and let's grow as a dev. So let's remember these submission details: grow as a dev, 6 years experience, developer, and project manager. Now let's go and submit that into Mailchimp, and we're going to see that data entered exactly as we had it in the form. Now we're going to jump into Mailchimp. We see our Hacks Mailchimp example with 0 contacts. I'm going to go ahead and reload. I should see 1 contact. Wonderful. And it's me. Great. Interest, grow as a dev. Nice. Designer, false. Developer, true. Project manager, true. Experience, 6 years. That is how you take a Webflow form submission and put it into Mailchimp. Let's get into Designer, see how all this is working. We're in Designer and we have a native Webflow form on the page. This form is 100% Webflow from the Assets panel. Here we're going to apply some classes to the form elements, and we're also going to have full access to our form settings. This is great. It's flexible. We don't need to embed the entire form here. So we are native in Webflow. We can go ahead and add our action URL, the URL of our list, and go ahead and set that method to post. If you don't know the basics of Mailchimp and the basics of sending a submission from Webflow to Mailchimp, there will be a link in the description for how to go through the basic steps here. This video assumes that you know the basics and you know how to get this URL and set the method. All right, let's get into the classes. Let's get into some of the hidden fields that we have here. First, we need a class applied to our form. Here we have the Hack19 form. Please note that this is not a class for the form wrapper. This is for the actual form. And if we go ahead and expand this, we're going to see all of our visual fields here. We're using the native radio, we're using the native checkbox, and we can go ahead and set our native settings here. We do need to make sure that we have a class applied to each one of these. Here we have Hack Form Select. Each of our radios have a class. They can be the same class. They don't need to be unique. So all of these have Hack19 radio. Same thing with the checkbox. They just need a class. They don't need to be unique. Hack19 checkbox, Hack19 checkbox, Hack19 checkbox. Here we have the Hack button, and that also needs a class because we are going to do something. We're going to change some information, move some data around after we click this button. Please be mindful of the very important name and, even more specifically, email tags on the name and email fields. You must have this tag applied to your email field. If you don't, Mailchimp is not going to send your form submission through. This is a Mailchimp basic. If I did email 1 here, this would not work. There would be some type of error message, and I would not be able to go through with this hack. So please make sure you have this. Make sure you have this. Okay, now let's jump into Mailchimp. We are in Mailchimp, we're in our list, and we are checking out our audience fields and merge tags. This is where we have to line up the name of the input field with the tag that we apply to that field in Mailchimp. So, like we just went over, email, this is not something you can change, it needs to be email. We have name set to our name field. We have interest set to our interest field. We have check des to our checkbox for designer, check dev to our checkbox for developer, check PM for our checkbox of project manager, and EXP for our experience. This is going to be applied to all of our radio buttons. We don't need individual fields for our radios. And if you notice, these are all text fields. Text, text, text. These are not set to checkboxes or radios. So what are we going to do? We're going to convert these checkboxes, radios, and selects to text, and then send the text into Mailchimp in its native Mailchimp safe way. Now, you're probably wondering, hey, why don't we have the name fields set here? I don't see any of these name fields correct. The group name, the checkbox, that's not what we have here in Mailchimp. Let's open up the form and jump into our HTML embed. This is set to hidden. We don't need it visible. These are all hidden fields. And check it out. We have our name, interest, name, EXP, check des, check dev, and check PM. Nice. And what are we going to do? We're going to insert the select selection with JS. We're going to insert the radio selection with JS. We're going to insert true, false, true, false, true, false for each of the checkboxes. And of course, these names are going to line up perfectly with our names in Mailchimp. Great. So that's all you need to know for structure. That's how you set all the classes. That's how you set the hidden fields. And now in JavaScript, we're going to convert the entry and the value that the user enters into each of these into text and send that in text into Mailchimp. Let's see how it works inside custom code. Let's break down this code line by line. Before the closing body tag, we're going to insert our script. Again, I'm going to make this announcement one more time. Make sure your email input field has the name of designer. We have the message here. Go ahead and delete that once you are ready to rock and roll. When the DOM is ready, we're going to run our function. And first, we are going to create variables for all of our form elements. These are the native Webflow form elements, the select field, the radio buttons, and the checkbox. So we are going to target our hack form select. We gave it that class, and we're going to call it form select. Same with the radio button, hack19 radio, in a variable called form radios. And then we have our hack19 checkbox, and we are calling it form checkboxes. Great, so now we have variables. We're ready to use this later on in the code. We are now going to also create variables for the hidden text fields that will actually be submitted. When we opened up that HTML embed, we had our hidden fields. We are now creating variables of those hidden fields. And we are targeting our interest field, that's the select, and we're calling it interest input or interest IMP. Same with experience. And we're doing the same for check designer, check developer, and check project manager. We're storing all of these into variables so that when we're in the code, we can easily reference these form elements and the hidden text elements. All right, now let's get into the actual working code. On button click, on the form submission button click, which is called hack button, that's the class that we gave our button for the form, When we click that, we are first going to prevent the default behavior. We're going to say, hold on, we know you're supposed to submit the form, but don't do it just yet. We're going to do some other things first. So we're going to prevent the default behavior from happening. Then we are going to get the value of the radio and the select fields. And what do I mean by value? I mean what the user is actually entering into that select field and actually entering into that radio field. So we are taking the form select. We are, and again, form select, that is what we established up here. And we're going to find the selected value, and we're going to take the value of the selected value. So if I did grow as a dev, what this variable is going to be is grow as a dev. And same thing with the radios. We're taking our form radios, which we established up here, and we are not doing that. We are finding the checked value, and we're taking the value of that checked value. So if I did 6+ years, this radio val variable is going to be 6+ years. Nice. And the select fields in the radios, it's very easy to transfer this value into the input field. There's only one option. So let's go to the select field first. We are taking the interest input, that is the variable that we established here to our hidden field, and we're going to update its value to the select val, which is what we established here. Do you see how we're taking these pieces and moving one piece to another piece to another piece and creating what we want? We're moving the data where we want it to go. And now our hidden field, our hidden text field that's going to go to Mailchimp, now holds the value that we want it to hold, which is grow as a dev. Same exact thing for radio. We're taking this variable that we established for the hidden field, we're updating its value, and the updated value is going to be the value that we established that the user is selecting. Nice. So we have our select, we have our radio, and now we're going to get into the checkboxes. These have a few extra steps. It's not as straightforward, but it is totally doable, and you can add as many checkboxes as you want. We are first going to make an array of all of the hidden inputs representing checkboxes. If you have 2 checkboxes, you would have 2 values here. If you had 6 checkboxes, you would have 6 values here. So every single hidden input, again, hidden input that is representing a checkbox goes into this array. What's an array? It's a list. We're making a list of all the hidden checkboxes. Great. Now we're going to run a function that checks each checkbox. Form checkboxes. For each, we are going to check if it's checked or if it's not checked. So we're going to get the status. This is a variable, and for each checkbox, this checkbox, we are going to find the input, and we're going to say, is it checked or is it not checked? And then we are going to store that yes or no, true or false, into the status. Great. And now we need to update the hidden checkbox fields with the same value that is applied to the native checkbox fields. So what are we doing here? We're lining up the checkboxes in the native form to the hidden checkbox text fields in the hidden fields. So it is very, very, very important that you keep the same order. If you have designer, developer, project manager, like our example, you need to have that same order in your hidden fields. So whatever's on the native form needs to be in the same order as the hidden text fields inside the HTML embed. And then after everything is inside the hidden text fields, we're now ready to submit the form. Mailchimp is going to get a whole bunch of text fields like it wants, and we're going to go ahead and submit the form. So when we were up here, we prevented default. We said don't submit yet. We're going to go ahead and do all this stuff. Once we're done, we're going to take the Hack 19 form and submit it. That is how you make a form submission from Webflow to Mailchimp with radios, checkboxes, and selects. Thank you so much for checking out this hack. Please clone the project. We have the entire hacks project available for clone. Start learning how these hacks work and use them on your live site. We're always releasing new hacks, so if you want to be updated, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want a super simple plain text email when we release a new hack, sign up at finsweet.com/hacks-updates. If you want to request a hack, we'll check it out and see if it's possible in Webflow. Go to finsweet.com/hacks-request. That's effing sweet.